Hello, welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Please have your say. A very good evening to you here from Movies TV Mad. You are welcome to comment, ask me questions. We do have some updates here for you. It's a very busy time to be a DC YouTuber. The Flash movie is coming in under 2 days, and James Gunn, unbeknownst to everyone, gave his good friend Michael Rosenbaum on Inside of You, that podcast, an exclusive interview, and there's some very, very interesting and exciting stuff to come from that interview. Please smash the like button. So, first of all, he has clarified a situation that I said needed clarifying. He needed to start talking about the future of DC after The Flash. Otherwise, it's ever so confusing. And I'm also going to speak about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and why I think it may be canned and shelved, because he hasn't spoken about that movie. That movie has had a lot of problems. James Wan suddenly a couple of weeks ago complaining about all the changes that he's had to keep up with in the DC universe. Could it be that Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom could be shelved? I think so. So he has clarified that Blue Beetle will be part of the new. Come to as much of a surprise to me or most of you, and Superman Legacy will be the first movie. Now, Michael Rosenbaum tried to get him to tell him if Lex Luthor was part of the new universe and part of Superman Legacy. Gunn wouldn't clarify that situation, but Rosenbaum doesn't mess about in interviews or when it comes to DC or Lex Luthor because he played him. Gunn admitted that Rosenbaum was the best Lex Luthor. Of course, Michael and James have been friends for years, but that's nothing to do with anything. Michael is the best Lex Luthor. That is a factual thing. But, I don't know what's going to happen there. Very, very interesting what happens. I think Lex Luthor will be involved in this brand new DC universe. So, Blue Beetle is part of the new DC universe. He's clarified that on the Inside of You podcast with Michael Rosenbaum, but he said the proper first movie under that banner is Superman Legacy. He's very excited about the Flash movie. Listen, James Gunn is like someone who's come to fix a broken down car. It's a very difficult gig to take over from where it was with the DCEU, create something new and exciting. He's also clarified that Peacemaker 2 will start production when Superman Legacy wraps. So James Gunn, we have to admit this, has got a very difficult gig. I know our fandom is divided, but this is where I am with it all. I have an open mind when it comes to James Gunn. It's not about trusting WB or Zaslav or even Gunn. It's about judging as I consume, because I don't have an agenda here. I love Snyder. I love the Snyderverse. I love lots of elements of the old DCEU. I loved Cavill. I love Batfleck. But at the end of the day, I'm a DC fan. I'm not here for any directors or any personalities. I'm here to see great, epic DC live action television, animation, and possibly gaming. So that's what I want. I want DC to be great. And he was talking about the different, universes of DC, Bloodhaven, Metropolis, Gotham, being like Westeros, and the world-building potential of all of that. That kind of talk really does excite me because I'm a DC fan. And I can't just sit here being angry for the rest of my life. James Gunn is the co-CEO of DC Studios. He's a man with a plan. And for me personally, this is how I see it. Now, you don't have to be part of it. You don't have to support it. You can keep on being angry. However you feel, that's up to you. It's a democracy after all. But it's very exciting. This is what I've been waiting for him to be done with Guardians 3 and that marketing and promotional campaign. And I've been very excited for this moment when he starts talking about the future because it's all about Superman Legacy now. That's what he's focused on. But he mentions Blue Beetle as the first DC Universe movie or the first character that's part of DC Universe again. What does that mean for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom? I believe Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is history. I don't think we're going to see that film. That's how I feel right now. I don't know any information. I don't know anything more than you lot, but that's how I see that situation. Which is sad because I have seen a test screening, an early test screening of that film. You know, the first film was outstanding, but that production has had more problems than the Flash movie. The Flash movie was made very easily. Really, it was made very, very easily. And, you know, there was no kind of controversy while they were making the film. The controversy came afterwards. Scott Edwards, what's up? Good evening, Scott. Tell me what you want to talk about. But yeah, so loads of information. So all the information I know about that James Gunn interview with his good friend Michael Rosenbaum, who used to play Lex Luthor on Smallville, on the Inside of You podcast is up there. So let's confirm it. James Gunn says Blue Beetle is in the DCU. Superman Legacy is the first DCEU movie. Describes the worlds of DC like Westeros and talks about the potential. Scott Edwards, I know everything about the Lost Kingdom now due to leaks. Well, we've been talking about that, Scott, and the potential of the Lost Kingdom not being released and being shelved. So, because James Gunn didn't mention that in the podcast, as far as I know. Scott Edwards, is Lost Kingdom in the DCU? I'll repeat, Scott. I have a theory. James Gunn is not talking. James Gunn is not talking about the Lost Kingdom. I believe the Lost Kingdom could be shelved. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom has had a lot of negative press. The test screenings haven't gone down well. It may not be released, Scott. That's how I feel right now. Scott Edwards, what did you not like about Mando? I didn't like Mando season 3. I'm not alone in that. I thought it was very mid. It was very dull. And they gave us great potential at the end of season 2, where we could have had Mando versus, you know, what's her name? The redhead woman, right? She wasn't happy that he got the black saber. That could have been a big battle, a Game of Thrones thing. That's what I thought they were going to do, and they didn't do it. He just handed it to her, you know, like a soy boy, and it was ridiculous. And, you know, it wasn't good, Scott. Disney Star Wars isn't good, Scott. Disney isn't good because they're not interested in entertaining people. I threw this top on and it's all gone all baggy and weird. Appearance is important, by the way. Scott Edwards, the action sequences were good. What, in Mando? Yeah, but you need story, mate. You need a good story. You need consistent characterizations. It has to be interesting. It can't just be about it looking good. It looks like Star Wars. It looks good, but it has to be more than that. Scott Edwards, are you still going to watch Ahsoka? I shall watch the first episode. If it's shit, I won't continue watching it. And that's the way it is. I have no faith in Disney Star Wars. It's just about, what Disney is about these days. And it's about representation. It's about inclusion, but it isn't about good storytelling. And I'm interested in good storytelling. That's why I don't watch a lot of new shit, because it's shit. And that's a shame, Scott. Scott Edwards, Black Manta gets possessed by the spirit and an ancient evil king. I don't want to talk about spoilers too much, Scott. But yeah, you may not be seeing that movie. That's my theory right now. Obviously, I know about the film. But yeah, I don't really want to get into it because they're huge spoilers. But yeah, I think Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom may never be released. That's the feeling I've got. We'll see. Here on Movies TV Mad, of course, we will keep you updated on that situation because at the end of the day, it may not be released because James Gunn is not talking about that movie, which I find very, very curious and dubious, and I'm sure people will be disappointed. Scott Edwards, it will probably make money. Well, it will make just as much money as the other films have, Scott. The past 5 DCEU movies have all been flops. They haven't made money. And that's the truth. And it takes more than DC fans getting boners and saying, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. You need the general audience to support these movies. And they're not doing it. Let's see how the Flash, let's walk before we can run. You know, next couple of days, we've got the Flash movie releasing. Let's see how that does. Then we've got Blue Beetle. And I think maybe the box offices of those 2 movies make their decision whether they want to release Aquaman and The Lost Kingdom. But the long and the short of it is they're not talking about Aquaman and The Lost Kingdom. And I find that very suspicious and very curious. We will see. So, yeah, it's a very interesting situation. We will see. But we do have 2 DC movies to come before that. So I just don't know. Scott Edwards, the Flash movie will be awesome. You know about the new ending? Yes, I do know about the new ending. And it looks like Ezra Miller has been dumped in another universe, which means we won't see him anymore. Because that's what that ending tells me. Because there's no way George Clooney is going to be James Gunn's Batman. So that kind of proves what I'm saying. That George Clooney thing was Gunn's idea. And it's curious that Aquaman is also in that timeline. Trapped in that timeline. So that's another piece of evidence to the jigsaw that tells me that maybe Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom isn't being released. We will see. The Flash movie is a good film. It's not perfect, it's entertaining. They've had, you know, it's been difficult. It's been a difficult journey to the Flash movie. And, you know, there's no way around that. Superman and Lois got renewed. I'm very happy about that. Scott Edwards, isn't that not up to Gunn, though? Yes, Scott, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying by James Gunn dumping Ezra Miller in the George Clooney DC universe that he's finished. So it is up to Gunn. It's not up to me, is it, Scott? But if he's in a universe with a Batman who isn't his Batman, it's pretty obvious what's going on. I'm talking about James Gunn and his decisions here. I'm not talking about my James. I'm not talking about... I don't get to decide. I get to talk about the stuff, right? James Gunn, it looks like, has decided to dump Miller in a dead-end universe that has nothing to do with his universe. So, yes, it is up to James Gunn. Scott Edwards, I mean, like, it's not up to him about releasing Aquaman. Well, it will be up to Gunn, Safran, Zaslav. That's who make the decisions, and they'll make the decisions together. Publicly, Safran, the DC Studios CEO, approved the decision of Batgirl being shelved. So it wouldn't surprise me. We will see, though, but they're not talking about that film. I'm not saying that's definitely happening. I'm saying I smell a rat. He's explained that, you know, Blue Beetle is a part of his new universe. He hasn't mentioned Aquaman. I repeat, he hasn't mentioned Aquaman as a character. And at the end of the Flash movie, in a post-credit scene, we have Barry with a drunk Momoa Aquaman. You see what's going on here? All you have to do in life is put 2 and 2 together, logically. Ezra Miller is dumped in another man's universe. What's that tell you? What does that tell you? So, yeah, I just see it like that. I just see it that, I mean, we're not going to see Ezra Miller again. Looks like Scott's gone. I can only tell you how I see it, you know, and at the end of the day, this is a new universe. James Gunn is going to make his decisions. As I say, he's like someone taking over a broken down car and he's trying to fix said broken down car. And it's a very difficult job because all these leaderships that have gone, you know, all the problems that have been with the DCEU, it's a very difficult job. And you have to be ruthless to fix it, unfortunately. And you can't just, you know, keep on doing bad things or keeping things that didn't work. And that's the problem. Scott Edwards, the Flash series finale was a joke. Yes, it was pretty bad, and I'm not surprised about that, Scott. I'm not surprised it was so bad because there's an old saying in the UK, too many cooks spoil the broth. They had too many characters to service. Instead of servicing their main characters, they made their villains too easily to defeat because they're obsessed in series finales and giving the Tumblr crowd the happy clappy endings they demand. And that's the problem. And this is why the Flash series was so bad for years. We started off with the Flash. I was watching a very old episode today. Very good. It was such a good show. And it went from bad to worse, really from the fourth season. Even the third season was a bit ropey, but I didn't mind Savitar. But yeah, Arrowverse messed itself up. Arrowverse was a great idea. It worked well. Very exciting for me as a DC fan in the early days. But then it became very, very mundane, and they were just trying to appeal to young women with a disposable income. And that was the problem with Arrowverse. Now, there's no Arrowverse. I mean, you could loosely say that Superman and Lois is Arrowverse. Back for a fourth season, deservedly so. And I think that's great that we get to keep this Superman series, even if it is just for 10 episodes. So that's really, really good news. Welcome to Movies TV Man. If you're just joining me, your headlines tonight are very, very exciting as James Gunn gives us a surprise interview with his good friend Michael Rosenbaum on Inside of You, clarifying that Blue Beetle will be part of the new DC universe. Superman Legacy, as we already know, will be the first full movie under the DC Studios banner. Very, very exciting. He refused to clarify if Lex Luthor will be in Superman Legacy. Michael Rosenbaum giving him some tough questions about Luthor, which was really fun to see. He described DC like Westeros, and he likes all the different, like Bloodhaven, Gotham, Metropolis, and says there's lots of good potential for world building. Scott Edwards, what rating would you give Mando season 3? Free. It's not good. It is not good. I think you have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to go anywhere above 5. It wasn't good, and most people admitted that. I think even the staunchest Disney Star Wars fan can't sit there and say, wow, that was amazing. It was highly disappointing. As most of Disney Star Wars is. It's certainly not for me. Whoever likes it, that's great. As I say, we are in a democracy. People can like or dislike whatever they like. Doesn't make them bad people. But Disney Star Wars, most modern entertainment, isn't for me because we've swapped titans of industry for people who don't care about great storytelling and great characterizations. Their agendas are political. And that's a shame. But this is why they're on the verge of bankruptcy and they're all on their knees. Scott Edwards, do you like Bo-Katan as a character? She's all right. I don't think she could lead her own show. I don't think she's a particularly interesting character. I find her quite wooden. I preferred her in animation. In animation, she was better than she has been in live action. The thing is, what Filoni's doing, he's trying to transfer all his animated characters to live action. And is it working? Can it work? Can you just translate animation to live action as simple as that? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure that you can. That's just my opinion on that. Not a great turnout tonight. People always ask me, why don't you go live? And then this happens. We've got a lot of floaters tonight, but we got none of our regulars. People coming in, people coming out. So this live's a bit pointless at the moment. Scott Edwards, I'll end with this. Metallo or Parasite should be villain in Legacy. Go ahead, out. Okay. Parasite or Metallo. Metallo would be good. A good domestic villain, I think, is what we need rather than another space invader with explosions and shit like that. We will see, Scott, and thank you for coming in to Movies TV Mad Live. Welcome to Movies TV Mad. We're live tonight. Your headlines are pinned at the top. James Gunn clarifies DC's very, very exciting future under him. And we'll see how we get on. He's spoken about world building. He's spoken about it being like Westeros. He's spoken about Blue Beetle being part of the new DC universe. He's spoken about Superman Legacy. And when that film wraps, he'll start production on Peacemaker 2. Which is also very exciting because I happen to be one of the people who really enjoyed the first season of Peacemaker. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not something I'm highly anticipating, but it will be great to see what he does with Peacemaker next. But yeah, so I think here on in, James Gunn is going to be focused on DC, and that's going to be very, very exciting. A very busy time for content creators talking about DC right now. We've got the Flash movie coming out in a couple of days. James Gunn's going to be doing a lot more talking. I need to watch that Inside of You podcast he did with Michael as well to see if he gave us any more gems. Very, very interesting. But DC is going into a new direction. Whether you like that or not, whether you care to support that or not, DC is going down a new creative avenue because DC live action hasn't worked out. The DCEU was not successful for one reason or the other. It's changed leaderships. It hasn't worked. And now James Gunn comes in for the impossible mission, and we'll see if he can make it successful. Who knows what will happen? But there are your updates tonight. Here on Movies TV Mad, live and exclusive to you from Cyprus. It's 10 to 10, evening here in Cyprus. As I say, we don't have a big turnout on the live tonight. Unfortunately, that's what happens when you go live. When people say to you, do a live, and then no one turns up. That's why I don't do lives. But I'll stay here for a while anyway and see if anyone else comes in. But yes, it's not a great turnout tonight, is it? And it's bloody hot here in Cyprus as well. Problem is, I can't be naked on YouTube. It's not allowed, and it's not a pretty sight. But I think it is very exciting to be a DC fan right now. I think it's more exciting to be a DC fan right now than it is to be a Marvel fan. There's a lot of potential coming our way. A half-decent Flash movie, hopefully a solid Blue Beetle movie. If you missed the conversation earlier, I was talking about maybe Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom being shelved. Not that that's official. They're just not talking about that movie, and I find that very, very suspicious. Will people be annoyed if Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom isn't released? I don't think many people will care. Be interesting how Jason Momoa sees that, but I think that Lost Kingdom, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, at this moment in time, is in a lot of trouble. And be interesting to see how that develops. Very, very interesting to see whether that develops or not. You see, I come live to interact with people. If people are not here, there's no point going live. So, as I say, I'm going to stay here for another 5-10 minutes. If we don't get a good turnout, I'm not going to stay, obviously. I'm not going to talk to myself as much as exciting as talking to myself is, because I think I'm really, really good company. And I won't do any more lives if people don't show up. There's no point. I don't want to hear people. I don't want to hear people asking me, why don't you go live when no one turns up? There's no point. You can't tell someone to go live and then not show up for the lives. It's a waste of my time, isn't it? I might as well just do pre-recorded videos once a day, like I was. But I gave you all a chance. I've been doing lives for the past couple of days. You've asked for the lives. You haven't showed up. You can't have any complaints. I did it for you. I tried, but you wasn't interested. So if you're just coming in, there are your headlines. Some exciting headlines there. We did say that a Blue Beetle would be part of the new DC universe. He is doing a Booster Gold series on Max, which I'm assuming will be connected to Blue Beetle. Wouldn't surprise me if we get a Booster Gold post-credit scene in the Blue Beetle movie added by James Gunn since he's taken over as co-CEO of DC Studios. And so, yes, these are the type of things we're going to get. James Gunn's going to do things his own way, no matter what anybody thinks. And that's the best way to do it. That's the best way in life to come in and do your thing. James Gunn can't be Zack Snyder. He can't continue the Snyderverse, you know. They think that it hasn't worked, whether it was the Snyderverse, the Johnsonberg era, you know, the Hamadaverse. None of it's really worked in terms of the kind of money the studio wanted to make. So I think this is last chance saloons, because they can't keep on doing this. They can't keep on spending money, good money after bad. But we're getting a brand spanking new Superman movie, which for me is very, very exciting. So yes, unfortunately, I've come and done a live on a dead night. What should we give it? Another 4 minutes before I say good night. I thought I was going to come and do a live. I thought there was going to be some interactions, but no one's here, I'm afraid. So it's a total waste of time. But I tried. You can't complain. I tried to do a live. You lot keep on asking for lives. But you're like the kids who used to play Knock Down Ginger. Knock on the door, then run away. So no more lives. I tried to do lives. You asked for lives. You don't show up when I do lives. So, you know, there's no point in me sitting here on a live with people floating in and floating out again. It is a waste of my time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore people in future who ask for lives and just do a pre-recorded video once a day. I think that's for the best, because there's no one here. No one's interested. So no point. I carry on with my pre-recorded vids. Maybe I'll do a live once a day for the DC Universe Daily. Maybe I'll do pre-recorded. But there's no point coming in the evening and doing lives if no one's going to show up. As I say, we have our headlines. James Gunn clarifies that Blue Beetle is part of the new DC Universe. Superman Legacy will be the first official DC Universe movie. He had a really big interview on Inside of You on that podcast presented by former Lex Luthor from Smallville, Michael Rosenbaum, because they're really, really good friends. He calls Michael the best Lex Luthor, which is a factual statement to make as well, which is really, really cool. But yeah, so they're your headlines tonight. And I'm excited that James Gunn is now talking DC, and we'll see what happens next. But I expect a lot of clarification. I think there should be some clarification on the ending of the Flash movie and what that means for Ezra Miller. I would expect a press release from Miller a few weeks after the movie's released. I expect him to announce that he won't be involved as the Flash anymore, that he's taking a break from acting or some bullshit like that, because he ain't going to be part of James Gunn's new universe. That's pretty obvious, because DC doesn't need this kind of heat. It's hard enough for DC to make successful movies, let alone have a loose cannon. And unfortunately, regrettably, Ezra Miller is a loose cannon. And, you know, if it wasn't for their conduct, this movie would probably make $1 billion, because there's so much excitement. The last 45 minutes of this movie is freaking awesome. The cameos, you know, the end fight, you know, the stuff that happens there. It's pretty dramatic, pretty emotional, and really compelling. So I think if Ezra Miller had behaved themselves, this movie will be making a lot more money than it's going to make. And I have no clue if it's going to open up successfully or if it's going to be a flop. And right now, it's not looking too good. The projections are for 68 million domestic opening weekend. So that's not good. That really isn't good. Are projections wrong? Will it do better or worse than projections? We're not going to have very, very long to wait to see how the Flash movie does. As I say, we haven't got a good turnout tonight. No one's commenting. So I'm going to sign off soon, probably in the next 5 minutes. If I don't get any more, if I don't get any interactions, I'm going in 5 minutes. Total waste of time. And I only do lives because people keep on asking me to do lives. When I do lives, this is what I get. But Mick, we live in this country. Our time zones are different. Yeah, well, that ain't my fault, is it? I can't do lives on your time zones, or I never get to sleep. I'll never shag my girlfriend. You know, I'll never be able to drink cola or eat cakes or smoke cigarettes. You know, I can only do it when it's right for me. It's evening now, and you lot asked for lives constantly, and you didn't show up. So there's nothing I can do about that. At the end of the day, you didn't come in, so no more lives. That's the end. This will be the last live ever, because you lot weren't interested in the lives, I'm afraid. So that's a shame. But what will happen is, as soon as I do a premiere, some person will say, oh, why don't you go live anymore? Well, clip this. I won't be going live anymore because no one shows up. So that's it. So it's not necessary to do lives, but it would be good if people did show up for the lives, but they don't. I can't force people to come in for the lives. I can't force people to find me interesting. So I'll stick to one pre-recorded video a day. And we'll keep it at that. We'll go back to the old system. It was worth trying the lives out, but people weren't interested. And, you know, that's it. I mean, I don't know what you want from me. If you want me to do a song and or a dance or, you know, shag someone live on camera. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, what does one do? Blue Beetle Animator. Hey, everybody. Hey, it's just you here, mate. There's no one else here. It's a dead night. No one showed up. I'm not going to do any more lives because people ask me to do lives. Then they don't show up. Hope you're okay. Blue Beetle Animator. And as a Blue Beetle fan, you should be excited to hear from James Gunn that Blue Beetle will be part of his DC universe. He's clarified that now. Very, very exciting. And what do you think of that, Blue Beetle Animator? Are you excited that Blue Beetle will be part of the new DC universe led by James Gunn and Peter Safran? Let me know what you think of that. I think it's exciting, and it's a boost to the movie as well. That's for sure. Because people knowing that this movie figures into the future is something that will make it have more box office potential, where people know that the people in the Flash movie don't have a future. People knew that people in Shazam! Fury of the Gods didn't have a future. You know, so on and so forth. Same with Black Adam. So that's why those movies haven't made money. We don't know about the Flash. We'll soon find out about the Flash movie. But I thought it was pretty obvious from the beginning, even before these movies were released, they weren't going to be successful, and releasing them was a bloody waste of time because James Gunn is changing things. John, hi, Mick. What are we talking about? If you look up there, John, I've got all the headlines up there. I've got all the headlines pinned, so you know what we're talking about. So the news is that James Gunn says Blue Beetle will be part of DC Universe. Superman Legacy will be the first official DC Universe movie. In an exclusive interview with his good friend Michael Rosenbaum, who of course played Lex Luthor in Smallville, he called him the best Lex Luthor. So there are your headlines tonight. Also, Zazie Beetz, who is confirmed will not be in Deadpool 3 and has chosen to be in Joker Folie à Deux, Joker 2, says it's definitely a musical. So that's very exciting. She enjoyed working with Lady Gaga as well. Blue Beetle Animator, I don't like Jamie that much. He always better as side character. Well, maybe they'll make him better in this movie. You only know the comic book version. Maybe they've made a good version that's a good central protagonist. So, yeah, give it a chance. Because you know the comic book character, you know the animated character, but you don't know what they've done in this movie. So maybe they've made him more than a side character. Maybe he works as a central character. Maybe the family element will make it more relatable as well, even though they are kind of all doing the family thing. We shall see. The only way you can know, the only way you can know if it's going to work is if you see the movie. John, Deadpool 3 has got a new release date. Yeah, Disney are delaying most of their projects. I'm not sure if Deadpool's been pushed forward or pushed back. I have very little interest in any Disney project because of the direction they've gone in. The kind of culture war, the kind of inclusion, the boring shit, everything, but make entertaining entertainment. I'm out. So Disney doesn't really interest me anyway. You're quite welcome to talk about Disney content. I will respond. I will answer your questions. But for me, it's not there. I'm not excited. I'm not interested in what they do. They're finished. They are finished. They could be the first studio to be bankrupt in the next year or so. That's how much trouble this studio is. They went from being the biggest studio in Hollywood to the bottom of the pile. Empires are destroyed from within. And I even think that Deadpool 3 won't be a great movie, because for me, it's very dubious and suspicious why they brought Jackman back as Wolverine. It's a cheap ploy as far as I'm concerned. And I would have rather have not seen, Wolverine in this movie. They finished his story off perfectly. Why bring him back? Why risk ruining it and making the character into a fucking joke? So I didn't really like Deadpool 2 either. I thought the first Deadpool was outstanding. I thought Deadpool 2 was very mid. And now even Zazie Beetz ain't going to be in Deadpool 3. She was one of the best things about that, those Deadpool movies. So, Reynolds is great as the character. Reynolds just plays himself anyway in every movie. But yeah, it's not something I'm excited about. Fantastic Four, let's see what kind of casting they do for that. Of course, Fantastic Four are huge Marvel characters in the Marvel comic universe. Will Feig get them right? The Marvel Cinematic Universe barely trends these days. Another actor has been accused of harassment, and that's the guy from the Black Panther sequel. So yeah, Blue Beetle animator. Mick, do you think they're already cast a Ted Kord in the Blue Beetle movie? There could be one historically. I'm assuming he died in this universe. Maybe we'll get a flashback or something, because Victoria's there. If Victoria's there, is Ted going to be there? I don't think so, unless Gunn makes some changes. Interesting. We may see him in flashbacks, Blue Beetle animator, to answer your question. Smash the like button, everyone. Get chatting. Ask some questions. Let me know what you think of our headlines tonight. Blue Beetle will officially be part of James Gunn's new DC universe, something we thought would be the case anyway. So I'm happy about that news. Blue Beetle animator. It would be nice if Booster Gold is in post-credits. I suspect that might be the case. Whatever they were going to do originally, they're now, since James Gunn has come in, decided to do a Booster Gold Max streaming show. So I'm assuming they're connecting it to this Blue Beetle, considering Gunn has confirmed that this Blue Beetle would be part of the DC universe. Hopefully that can bump up the box office as well. Because I think one of the problems with the other DCEU movies, they don't figure in the future. Sam Hughes, Ted Kord isn't dead. He's missing, I think. He will be in the post-credit scene along with Booster Gold. Let's see, Sam. It's a good theory. I can't see why that wouldn't be the case. Let's see what happens, because Ted Kord is a very popular character. We will see what they're planning. I think there's probably been some changes since James Gunn has come along, but I think it's important that Ted Kord is involved. But Booster Gold is a very popular character. We know that. And James Gunn will do a very good job in whoever he gets to develop Booster Gold. The potential is there with James Gunn because he knows these characters and he loves the comics. But we will see. I will judge on consumption. I will judge what James Gunn does on his casting, on his actual movies, on his actual streaming shows. That's all any of us can do. I just want DC to be great. John, did you see the Flash premiere interviews? Yes, I did. I saw that Ezra Miller was there. I don't think he was interviewed, but he did address the people there at the premiere. He thanked some people. I think if you can thank people, why can't you do interviews? He said he don't want to make it about him. He wants it to make it about the film. But you're there already, Ezra. It's already about you. So very strange goings on. It looked like a very uncomfortable premiere. I noticed how Ezra Miller and Ben Affleck weren't standing together and didn't even look at each other. Kal-El, good evening, Mick. Good evening, Cal. Tell me what you're thinking. The Flash movie is out in a couple of days. A very exciting time for DC. And as I say, if you're excited for the Flash movie and you enjoy the Flash movie, come back and let me know. Because we're not here for any agendas, even though our fan base is very divided. We're here to support people who enjoy DC content, who are excited for DC content. And there's other people who are very angry still over what happened with Snyder. I understand that. But this is a place for all DC fans, not just one section of DC fans. But I'm always going to give my views, and that's not always going to be comfortable for some people. But yes, it was the premiere of the Flash movie last night, and Ezra Miller was there, but he didn't give any interviews. So very, very interesting. He looked very suave. He looked very glam. He always does on these occasions, and I think this is the last time Ezra Miller will play the Flash, considering he's been dumped in another universe. So, yeah, DC Superfan, yo, Mick, good evening, DC Superfan. We're finally getting some people in the chat because I was getting a bit bored earlier, threatening to never do a live again. You missed it. It's fine. So again, I'll repeat the headlines. Blue Beetle is part of James Gunn's DC Universe. Superman Legacy will be the first DC Studios movie. John, there are rumors that Two-Face could be in the Batman 2. Yes, apparently there is a casting call for Two-Face, so that's very exciting. Blue Beetle animator. My dad doesn't like CBMs, and he got excited for the Flash when we watched Fast X. Why did he get excited for the Flash? Because you watched Fast X? Totally different movie. Or is it because Mama was in that movie? And I was speaking before you all turned up about the potential of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom being shelved by Warner Brothers Discovery. They're not talking about it. Gunn has confirmed that Blue Beetle will be the first movie in the DC universe, his DC universe. He didn't mention Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And I'll repeat what I said earlier. That makes me very dubious and very suspicious about the certainty of that movie's release. DC Superfan, what's the biggest piece of DC info you know? Well, I know what's up there, that James Gunn has clarified that Blue Beetle will be the first movie in the DC universe. I know other things that we're not going to go into until they're certain, but that's the news that's going around. Blue Beetle animator, the Flash trailer came on before Fast X. Oh, right, I see. Yeah, well, the trailers were very good. Listen, the Flash movie is a good movie. If you're a DC fan and a DC purist, I mean, would you like some spoilers for the Flash? Should I release some spoilers? Should I, look, there's some things that you know, right? So we know there's lots of cameos in this movie. Christopher Reeve, cameos in this movie. I know, impressive considering he's dead. Helen Slater cameos as Supergirl in this movie. She's there alongside Christopher Reeve. DC Superfan, nice. Love these lives and how you interact with us. Well, of course, I've been waiting for you all for ages. I was sitting here like a bloody idiot and none of you were here. And I said, I'm never doing lives again, and I nearly left. But lucky, I was patient. Lucky I've got such a big mouth, I could just talk to myself. I often talk to myself. I'm fucking mad. It's all right. My family are trying to put me in an asylum because I'm mad. For all you know, maybe I escaped from an asylum and I just decided to launch a YouTube channel. Maybe I escaped from Arkham Asylum. Maybe I was mates with the Joker. Maybe I was the Joker's gay lover. How'd you know? Maybe me and the Joker had a threesome with Harley Quinn. Margot, I'll teach you to be a feminist girl. Kal-El, Aquaman 2 will flop like a fish out of water. Well, that's the discussion, Kal-El. It may not even flop. It may not even be released because James Gunn hasn't mentioned it. He's mentioned Blue Beetle will be the first DCU movie, but no word on Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Could it get the same treatment as Batgirl and be shelved as a tax write-off? Don't be surprised if that happens. Blue Beetle animator, I was watching your previous live that I missed. You mean this morning? The DC Universe Daily Live, yes. I don't know if I'm going to continue doing the magazine show, the DC Universe Daily, where we talk about the news during the day or in the morning when I do that. But I may do it live because it's easier for me, because if I do a half an hour pre-recorded video, it takes 9 hours to upload because my internet isn't great where I am here in Ayia Napa, Cyprus. Hello, if Momoa is playing Lobo, then they should cancel it. Pointless. Film like all of the Hamada films. Yeah, it's a bit difficult, Cal, because you've got a bunch of movies that you've invested money in. As an industry, all these studios are suffering since COVID. You know, they embrace streaming. They've been, you know, very much in the culture war, which has really turned the customer against them. They're not making money because they all went for the capes. They all went for IPs. They all went for streaming. They tried to destroy Netflix, and it hasn't worked. It's backfired. Samson and reviews. Where did all this hate for Aquaman 2 come from? Aquaman made $1 billion. Everyone was excited for the sequel, and now they are doubting it for no reason. Well, let me give you a catch-up, Sam. One of the problems is Amber Heard. They're worried that the movie will be boycotted because of Amber. I think Amber is a great mirror, by the way. Not a great person, it seems, but no one's perfect, right? I mean, the bed crapper, as I call her. But yes, I mean, that's a problem. But I think there's been other problems. James Wan speaking out about all the changes going on at DC. He doesn't sound very happy, if you ask me. I was looking forward to this film. I've seen a test screening of this film where Michael Keaton cameos. It's all right. I mean, listen, it may probably be released, but I am suspicious, and I've been suspicious for a while, that Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom will be shelved. Kal-El, Sam, where have you been? Blue Beetle Animator, a lot of people worked hard on that movie. Why shelf it? Kal-El, I'm Team Amber. Okay, then. Someone has to be. Well, to go back to Blue Beetle Animator's point, listen, as I said earlier, these are studios in heavy debt. They're not making money because of the poor creative decisions they've made. And if they feel the movie hasn't got the potential to make any money, they can get a tax write-off and get some money back at the very least. That's why Blue Beetle Animator. Samsung reviews, Aquaman 2 isn't getting shelved. It costs too much money and lots of people worked on it. Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter if it costs a lot of money, Sam. They can get all of that money back on a tax write-down. Disney have got billions back on all the tax write-downs on their streaming content. So you can get your money back at the very least, because if you're going to spend money on marketing and all of that, but your movie's going to fail, you know, we'll see. And we have to wait and see to see how the Flash movie does as well, because the projections for the Flash movie are now an even softer 68 million domestic opening. Will it do more? Will it do less? We'll have to wait and see. It seems that nobody really knows how much the Flash will open up. It's a really weird situation. I mean, people work on a lot of stuff, right? People work on making moldy cheese. But if the customer doesn't want to eat moldy cheese, which you can understand, then you can't sell moldy cheese. And that's the problem. It doesn't really matter if people worked on it. I mean, as harsh as that sounds, that's not the consideration. People worked on Batgirl. They still shelved it. I know it was a cheaper thing to make, but they can get their money back on things that they don't believe in. We will see. More than likely, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom will be released. They're not talking about it, though, and that's interesting. For sure, I don't believe that Momoa will continue to play Aquaman after Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I'm pretty confident about that. Now it's all about opinions. We don't have any certain news, but yes, that's been problematic for them. Test screenings haven't gone well. They've redone it. They've made changes. We've heard from James Wan, who's not happy about the constant changes for that movie as well. So yeah, we will see. We will see what happens there. But I expect James Gunn to speak a lot more on the future of DC. And I think it's important considering how the Flash movie ends as well, because it's going to kind of confuse people, especially where that leaves Ezra Miller's The Flash in a dead-end universe, not the new universe. By the way, John, Superman and Lois is getting a season 4, that's right. And Gotham Knights has been cancelled. Yeah, I don't think any of us are surprised about the cancellation of Gotham Knights. It's a typical CW project. Of course, the CW has been brought by another company now, so they were never going to give that show a second series. It was horrible. No one was watching it. It was embarrassing. YouTubers were just kind of doing recaps and taking the piss out of it. I'm happy for Superman and Lois. Reduced to 10 episodes. They're going to reduce the budget. They're going to reduce the cast. 10 episodes. That's better than nothing. Blue Beetle Animator. Who is the villain for Aquaman 2? Black Manta. Kal-El, pollution. Well, yes, that's part of it. I mean, listen, in a recent interview, Jason Momoa was talking about the film, and he said a lot of his ideas weren't green-lit. He had, he was talking about him addressing the UN in the movie and things like that. And some of his ideas, I think the film's been a bit of a mess, actually, and creatively, and it wouldn't surprise me if that movie is shelved, but we'll wait and see. I'm not God. I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know for sure. And if you don't believe in God, you're going to say, well, why do you think you're God who doesn't exist? Whatever, man. Don't want to get into that shit. But you know what I mean? So we will see. But yeah, this is about James Gunn creating a new universe, a new timeline, doing his thing. Sometimes reviews. Aquaman 2 isn't getting shelved. It costs too much money and lots of people worked on it. You're repeating yourself, Sam. You said that earlier, and as someone who understands about the industry, I explained to you. I didn't tell you. I don't know if it's being shelved or not. I'm not saying. That's why I said to you, Sam, you do have a problem with listening sometimes. You repeat yourself when someone doesn't agree with you. But I've noticed whatever I say, you'll go, that's not happening. Everything I say, no, that's not happening. Like you know more than me. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying they're not talking about the movie. It's had a bad press in the test screenings, and they won't lose money if they get a tax write-off for it. I've explained that, Sam, already. They can get their money back. That's a possibility. We will wait and see. I'm not saying that's the case. Here, we talk about what's going on in the news, but also we give our opinions. I have theories. Now, I know some people don't like my conspiracy theories, but that's bad luck. This is what we do here on Movies TV Mag. We're trying to have a conversation. I've already explained to you that I'm not saying this is factual information. I'm giving you my opinion as someone who has experience in the industry. Kal-El, tax write-off, which means they can get money. They can get their money back. That's what Iger, as I explained earlier, Iger has got billions back for the stuff he's taken off Disney Plus, right? This is how businesses that are in big trouble, on the verge of receivership, act. This industry is not making money. The audience is left the building. So that's the point, Sam. So you don't know what's happening for sure. I don't know what's happening for sure. I'm just venturing a theory. I'm just venturing an opinion. And that's okay. Otherwise, what's the point of having a platform if we're not going to have a conversation? We can't just keep on saying, well, that would never happen. You have trust in this studio, right, not to cancel this movie. I don't. Because they're going in a new direction. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In terms of the future, we know that Momoa is going to play Lobo. We already know that, right? They've told us not in so many words. So they're going to cast someone else as Aquaman. It's obvious. And I think it's the guy who played Arthur Curry in Smallville, who's been doing very well for himself. Thank you very much. And I think they're going to go for a blonde Aquaman, and they're going to move away from Momoa. That's why they offered him the plum deal of playing Lobo, so he didn't go off to the press and start complaining. And he's always wanted to play Lobo. James Gunn knew that, and it's going to work out very, very well. Lobo is a big character in the Superman comic book universe, which means he will be in Superman Legacy. It will be great to see Momoa as that character in Superman Legacy, and I think the fans will gobble that up. And we'll see about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I personally don't think Momoa will ever play Aquaman again. Blue Beetle animator, Alan Rickson, that's it, yeah. He played Arthur Curry, Aquaman, in Smallville. I thought he was pretty good. I didn't think he'd have a big career, but he has. And I think there's a great opportunity. He's broad, he's big. He's probably late 30s, early 40s. So there's